back to Grim Advice with Gretta Myers. You've entered the Grimoire with 2 M's. Let's turn the page together. Alright, my gremlins, I'm going to apologize. I lied to you. You thought you'd be listening to Brother Lustig today. That's not gonna happen. You wanna know why? Because it's 9 pages. And I've had a day. Capital D, trademark symbol. So now, I'm gonna swap today and tomorrow's. And hey, the slate is still correct, just a little jumbled. So don't get mad at me, okay? It's fine. I'll be okay. Besides, today's is going to be terribly interesting. I'm excited to read to you. Without further ado, Gambling Hansel. Once upon a time there was a man who did nothing but gamble, and for that reason people never called him anything but Gambling Hansel. And as he never ceased to gamble, he played away his house and all that he had. Now the very day before his creditors were to take his house from him, came the Lord and St. Peter, and asked him to give them shelter for the night. Then Gambling Hansel said, "For my part, you may stay the night, but I cannot give you a bed or anything to eat." So the Lord said he was just to take them in, and they themselves would buy something to eat, to which Gambling Hansel made no objection. Thereupon Sir Peter gave him 3 groschen, and said he was to go to the baker's and fetch some bread. So Gambling Hansel went. But when he reached the house where the other gambling vagabonds were gathered together, they, although they had won all that he had, greeted him clamorously, and said, "Hansel, do come in." "Oh," said he, "do you want to win the 3 groschen too?" At this they would not let him go, so he went in and played away the 3 groschen also. Meanwhile Sir Peter and the Lord were waiting, and as he was so long in coming, they set out to meet him. While Gambling Hansel came, however, he pretended that the money had fallen into the gutter, and kept raking about in it all the while to find it. But our Lord already knew that he had lost it in play. St. Peter again gave him 3 groschen, and now he did not allow himself to be led away once more, but fetched them the loaf. Our Lord then inquired if he had no wine, and he said, "Alack, sir, the casks are all empty." But the Lord said he was to go down into the cellar, for the best wine was still there. For a long time he would not believe this, but at length he said, "Well, I will go down, but I know that there is none." When he turned the tap, however, lo and behold, the best of wine ran out. So he took it to them, and the 2 passed the night there. Early next day our Lord told Gambling Hansel that he might beg 3 favors. The Lord expected that he would ask to go to heaven, but Gambling Hansel asked for a pack of cards with which he could win everything, for dice with which he could win everything, and for a tree on which every kind of fruit would grow, and from which no one who had climbed up could descend until he bade him do so. The Lord gave him all that he had asked, and departed with St. Peter. And now Gambling Hansel at once set about gambling in real earnest, and before long he had gained half the world. Upon this St. Peter said to the Lord, "Lord, this thing must not go on. He will win, and you will lose the whole world. We must send Death to him." When Death appeared, Gambling Hansel had seated himself at the gambling table, and Death said, "Hansel, come out a while." But Gambling Hansel said, "Just wait a little until the game is done, and in the meantime go into that tree out there and gather a little fruit, that we may have something to munch on our way." Thereupon Death climbed up, but when he wanted to come down again, he could not. And Gambling Hansel left him up there for 7 years, during which time no one died. So St. Peter said to the Lord, "Lord, this thing must not go on. People no longer die. We must go ourselves." And they went themselves, and the Lord commanded Hansel to let Death come down. So Hansel went at once to Death and said to him, "Come down." And Death took him directly and put an end to him. They went away together and came to the next world, and then Gambling Hansel made straight for the door of heaven and knocked at it. "Who is there?" Gambling Hansel. "Ah, we will have nothing to do with him. Begone." So he went to the door of purgatory and knocked once more. "Who is there?" Gambling Hansel. "Ah, there is quite enough weeping and wailing here without him. We do not want to gamble. Just go away again." Then he went to the door of hell, and there they let him in. There was, however, no one at home but old Lucifer and the crooked devils who had just been doing their evil work in the world, and no sooner was Hansel there than he sat down to gamble again. Lucifer, however, had nothing to lose but his misshapen devils, and Gambling Hansel won them from him, as with his cards he could not fail to do. And now he was off again with his crooked devils, and they went to Hohenfort, and pulled up a hop pole, and with it went to heaven, and began to thrust the pole against it, and heaven began to crack. So again St. Peter said, Lord, this thing cannot go on. We must let him in, or he will throw us down from heaven. And they let him in, but Gambling Hansel instantly began to play again. And there was such a noise and confusion that there was no hearing what they themselves were saying. Therefore St. Peter once more said, Lord, this cannot go on. We must throw him down, or he will make all heaven rebellious. So they went to him at once and threw him down, and his soul broke into fragments and went into the gambling vagabonds who are living this very day. What? Maybe I shouldn't be laughing, but that was hilarious. Okay. First off, don't gamble. We've talked about this. You don't know when you're gonna lose. So then you just keep giving all of the times. No, where to go? So you just keep giving and giving and giving. You're like, oh, it'll keep going. The winning streak will keep going. But then it doesn't. And then you're lost. So whether that be whether that be gambling or lying, because in lying, it's almost the exact same thing, neuroscience-wise. Like, it looks the same in patterns of the brain, because it's the same concept of, I won something, whether that be someone's trust, whether falsely, or money, or whatever, and so I must keep going, and then you get more and more in depth and indebted, and you're in too deep, and then you're dead. Metaphorically speaking, hopefully, but you never know. So don't lie, don't gamble, don't do it. Like, he even lied, even though he knew that, okay, maybe he didn't know that it was the Lord, but like, if he did, the Lord knows you're lying, but he still lied out of habit, so don't do it. So maybe he didn't, because the Lord was like, yeah, there's gonna be wine in the cellar, and he's like, no way, there's no wine down there, but then there was wine. I guess, I don't know. Be careful, always, but I think, don't make decisions based on panic, because there are people that have that ability. Oh, you're panicking. Let me just use that, feed off of that, take that in, and turn it into, now you're following my plan, haha! Right? Because every time something bad happens, Peter was like, hey, Lord, this is bad. We should do something about this. And then every time they did something about it, didn't exactly go as they planned. Because they didn't exactly, like, I feel like they could have sat down and figured out a plan to make this guy go away. Like, they could have figured out, well, we kind of, like, gave him these cards, so blah, 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 blah. So this might happen. Like, they could have sat down and figured it out, but they didn't. So I have a plan. I really don't know what to say. This one was just so weird. But yeah. Because there was definitely a lot of panic in those decisions. And eventually it just didn't end up working out. So, I really am not sure what to say. But don't gamble! No gambling, no lying. Alright. Alright, my gremlins. Thank you for joining us for another happily ever after, or not so happily ever after, or just a weird ever after. That's up for you to decide, and what you decide is valid, because you're valid. You are. Either way, this is the end for this episode, so tune in later and we can learn more and turn a whole bunch of pages later.